Right, it's still good morning, Anambra, and we're delighted to have you join us again. This time around, it's our discussion. And what do we have? It's a topic of interest, some of the things bedeviling the nation that needs to be tackled properly, and that's tackling the inadequacies in education in Nigeria. We have two guests in the studio. They are of education sector to help us really look at this topic, and of course let's see if we can prefer solution where possible. We have in the studio this morning Professor Cliff Nwanna. Professor Cliff Nwanna is a professor of arts education cum history, Nnamdi Azikiwe University here in Awka. Thank you, Prof, for coming on the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
We also have Dr. Anselm Mweke. Dr. Anselm Mweke is a lecturer at Chukwemeka Odumegu Ojukwu University, Ibariam. Doc, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, of course, you've seen it. We've got two great learned personalities when it comes to the education sector. And of course, we're doing justice to this topic, tackling the inadequacies in education in Nigeria.
All right, over the years, a lot of policies have been made in the education sector, all get towards getting it right in that sector in terms of quality and qualitative education. But it seems a lot still needs to be done, because sometimes it seems we want to close the gap, but it seems that the gap keeps getting wider. And this morning we're here to x-ray these inadequacies, what actually brought about them, who is to blame, and of course ways to tackle them if actually we still have the opportunity, or if there are still possibilities of tackling them and getting them right. Let's come to you, Prof. Prof, I would like to begin with, looking at the education sector in Nigeria. Historically, could you trace the education from the era of the pre-colonial era to where we have found ourselves today?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that what we see as education has two phases. You have the child-centered education. You have that of the societal center, the society influenced education. Now, when we talk about education, people always think of only the formal education. And that gives an idea that we had no idea of education before the colonial period. But it's not true. You see, we have the non-formal, the informal, and the formal. Now, the non-formal is a traditional kind of education. Like girls are taught how to be good mothers. Boys mostly learn kind of craft from their parents, uncle, and others they will learn from the society. Then you have the informal, like workshop, attending workshop, all these short programs. That is the informal. Then we now have the formal, which is what people can also call the Western type of education.
Yes, and I think that basically that's what we are here to do.
Yes, I know. That's why I want to start it historically. Okay. Now, when the colonialists, the British that colonized this area came, first we encountered education through the missionaries. They came, they first settled at Sierra Leone, came down to Badagry. But the kind of education was just to train people to assist in missionary work. So they started with something like what you could call teaching them basic things like grammar, hygiene, how to give sermons, Then from there, gradually, the colonial government got involved. But initially, the colonial government, for a reason I don't know, they were reluctant to get into education. But around early or late 19th century, they now started gradually to form what they call board First, it was in Ghana. The one in Ghana was moderating both Lagos and Ghana and Accra. And gradually, government now stepped up to establish their own schools. Now, looking at the setup, government too, that the British government then, they weren't much interested in science subjects, technical subjects. You know, it was like training people who will be clerks, who will assist in business and all that kind of sundry subjects. Then thank God for the nationalists. You know, of course, I will not waste time talking about nationalists. We know that there were Africans that probably traveled abroad, got enlightened. They started thinking homewards. You know, how do we better our homeland? You know, people like Anambra and so many of them, but Macaulay. So those nationalists started putting pressure on the colonial government to kind of reevaluate what they teach, introduce subjects that will make the students fit into modern society and not just people that will be clerks and so on and so forth. Let me say they set up committees, and with the recommendations, Yaba College of Education was started. You know, then knowing that UI, like we talk about UI was just an extension of University College London. You know, it was University of London that just started a campus there. So if you talk about the indigenous idea that was implemented through the recommendation of the panels, one could now call Yaba Tech. But then coming down to...
Summarily, what was it like, you know, in quality here?
Let me say that the assessment is not what I want to stress now. What I want to stress is the idea of how we started. We did not start well. Let me put it that way. Then, when in the 70s, that's during our independence period, you know, with that spirit of independence, you know, let me say we almost overdid it. You know, we were in a hurry to catch up. You know, being in a hurry to catch up, people were bringing a lot of ideas, and then, you know, we had regions. So each region had its own philosophy, often slightly different from the other region. Like the educational policy in the Western region was slightly different from that of the Eastern region. But the one that I would say that broke the camel's back was UPE, that started in the 70s, that Universal Primary Education. With that one now, there was need for teachers. Teachers were mass-produced. A lot of short programs, you know, just to turn out half-baked teachers. You know, before, the training of a teacher during the early colonial periods, or even the post-colonial, was very rigorous. You know, you go through this, you go to teachers training college and so on. So it was abridged. So we had teachers that were not qualified to be called teachers. And you can't give what you don't have.
All right. Let's come in a bit now. Let's come in a bit, because you said we didn't really start well.
Yes.
You know, and that was kind of what was it like then in terms of quality. Doc, could you please help us here?
Yeah, during the colonial era, in the establishment of these schools that I just mentioned, the schools then, because of inadequacy or lack of sufficient personnel, so this training was established then, and also the issue of teachers training college, you know, and all these things were geared towards improvement of the quality of teaching. Yes, so I will say that in the colonial era, there was not much attention was given to education, except that the issue of education was really on the area of those that will assist in the administration of the British government.
So you basically agree with the fact that we didn't start well?
Yes.
So, but I think I've actually met some very old lecturers, people who have been way back.
Professionals.
And yes, professionals, and they agree to the fact that the quality of education way back can't be compared to what we have now. So if I have to believe or agree with what you say that we didn't start well, how did they get that?
See, the issue is this. We're talking about colonial, post-colonial.
Okay.
During post-colonial, the Nigerians now on their own begin to adopt policies that will enable them establish a good educational footing, that will inculcate good ideas and morals in the society.
When did that start?
When did that start? In early 70s.
Okay.
Yes, the early 70s. Because by then the institution, the universities, like University of Nigeria and other Ibadan and all the institutions that were established then was established with high standard and quality. And the students that were churned out, the graduates then, were of good quality. Because of the
all right, Prof. In my introduction, I remember I said something that, a lot of policies have been made over the years, in a bid to close the gap, knowing that this adequacy is not something that just began today or yesterday. It's been there, trying to close this gap. The gap seems to be, getting wider by the day. What do you think is the problem here?
Actually, you're right. The various governments have tried to close the gap. Like we know, we have the NPE, National Policy on Education, that started in, I think, 73 or so. But you find out that the content you have there, a lot of stakeholders don't even care to implement the content of that NPE. Then coming to the school administrators, you have teachers who are not supposed to be teachers because they are not trained teachers. To be a trained teacher, you must be grounded in the pedagogy. That is the teaching skills. There is the subject area. Okay. Then you also know the psychology. And let me even talk about teaching in stages. You find out that what appears to be most challenging is the primary school teaching or early childhood. But these are the places or the areas that we don't pay much attention. These are the areas like, if you go from private schools, they will bring people who could hardly speak English, who could hardly communicate to teach. They say it's not much now. They are just they are toddlers. But that is where you need attention. That is where you need to understand the psychology of a child. For the child to learn according to his own rate and not either pushing him too much or allowing him to go low.
Okay, quick, Doc, let's quickly look at, because when we're talking about tackling the inadequacies in education in Nigeria, what are these inadequacies? Because let's go deep into it, because we need to know what these inadequacies are, then how to tackle them. So what are these inadequacies in the education sector in Nigeria?
Yes, coming to that area, the inadequacies is as a result of what I will call poor funding. Poor funding. Poor funding in the areas of revenue allocation or budgeting, educational budgeting, is very poor. That when you look at the educational sector, look at the sector and knowing fully well that education is the bedrock of the economy. Because when you neglect that education, it affects other sectors of the economy. So the budget, Nigerian budget in education is abysmal, is very low.
When it comes to education.
Yeah, all right, let's see who's here before we go on. Hello?
Hello?
Good morning, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, what's your name?
I'm calling from Mumbai.
You're welcome, go ahead.
My name is Luai Amowa.
Go ahead.
Cool, go ahead.
In fact, I'm very, very much interested in the topic we are discussing this morning.
Yes.
Thank you.
So go ahead with your contributions, Onyoma.
I do now my argument on the school of before the war and after the war. For example, I passed out of standard 6 in 1964. But we can't do.
Could you please move away from your television, please?
Onyoma, can you hear us? Onyoma.
All right, we didn't quite get you. It's not very clear.
Yes, and then again, please, when you call, as much as possible, move away from your TV set. You know, we're having a hall back here. If you want us to really hear what you're saying, or the world wants to hear you, then you have to move away, or better still,
all right,
turn on the volume.
Back to you. We're talking about these inadequacies. What are they?
So the talking of the budgeting. So this, because the money or the budget or economy or the finance is very, very essential. That will enable you to provide all the necessary equipment, the materials. Because we lack fund in education, it affects the quality of staff, teaching staff. It also affects the quality of material, teaching materials. It also affects the infrastructure. It affects the infrastructure. So now, because of this, lack of fund may also affect the quality of staff we recruit. That means we don't have sufficient personnel, teaching staff.
We'll come back to this inadequacy.
All right, sorry, at this point, please, we'll go to the studio right now to get some vox pop. Let's feel the pulse of the people concerning the issue at stake. When we come back, we continue with looking at these inadequacies, what actually they are. We'll be right back.
To do more for, especially with the youth, when it comes to providing some basic amenities, especially electricity, light in Nigeria. Many of the students actually run down into school at evenings to make sure they get to use the lights and charge up their phones to browse the internet and what have you. If we can work on those amenities, I think we'll have a better education in Nigeria.
I will encourage the government to make some efforts to reduce the public spaces that create. Because if you look at the public space the government has created, it has enabled the private sectors to be opening schools, and as a result of that, the fees are much. But if that space is a little bit, at least you can see people from several sectors going to school within a minimum amount of money. But if they leave that, public space there, they will give people opportunities to, use education to make money. And it's not supposed to be that way.
School rhythm neketa. Even man one room and anyway school. Manebia school anyway. Other Gani room Kembo. Qualified teachers. I know that. I mirror him. Before I go to for me and see any Hanona chore. And I may wending cuisine my mad. Me malum mad and I work. Mani malum mad a well so tutu mali fifa neme no na azuafia na instead ibia me nya kuzero maka fa talent a chukwu nye fa haji go ya gote ya na akwụkwọ ona emu maka na adachi ọ bụ na gọọmenti tinye nke ha mee ya ọfụma kedu ihe eji private schools eme ha tinye ọfụma when ndị nkuzi mali fifa na
Okay, still good morning, Anambra show where we are looking at tackling inadequacies in education in Nigeria. And we've just watched a vox pop where people, add their opinions on how they feel about the situation. And let me come to you, Prof. The last woman there was actually talking about, I think what she said was part of the inadequacies we have in the education sector, where you need to know somebody for you to get into, one level of teaching or the other. And as a result, some people that actually know it are somewhere else doing what they're not supposed to do. So what's your take on that? Let's quickly react to that vox pop.
I think she's right, but let's take a look at it the other way. You find out that there's this apathy that, remember I said we did not start.
You said something before when somebody is a teacher. There are people that are born teachers,
Yes.
So with what the woman said, being where you are not supposed to be because of the inadequacies we experience.
That's what I'm coming there. From the start, there was this apathy. Teachers were paid lowly. A lot of people never wanted to teach. But today, especially in the tertiary institutions, the salaries at the moment have been enhanced. So you find all kinds of people, struggling to become teachers to become lecturers. That has to check. And that is part of what she's saying. But I know previously, let's take primary school, for instance. There are areas where you don't find teachers. They will be begging people. If they put a teacher there, the teacher will do whatever he or she will to come back to Oka or the capital. So you see, I don't want to start mentioning areas, but we know there are areas where teachers attend to pupils maybe twice a week. But those things are no longer like that. And that even tells us that by the time we improve on the funding and the outlook, education will be better.
All right, I think we'll still get to that when we talk about ways to tackle these issues. Now, there's something Prof said earlier, Doc, I'm coming to you, about the whites coming to, when they train you, it is because of what you can offer. They train you to do what you're supposed to do. But these days, it seems that Nigerians are based on certificate issue. Just get the certificate, you can get employed anywhere you want. How do we marry the two? When you have the certificate, but you don't have what it takes to prove what you've read. Doc, let's come to you.
Yes, that's the area when we talk about somebody who is qualified for an employment. How some unqualified graduates. They are graduates, but they are not qualified to be employed. Or they are not employable because of the fact that the rudiments of the course that they graduated from they didn't get into it. So this is where that will talk about half-baked graduates. Because these days, some people are more interested in certificate, like we rightly said. And for instance, by the fact that the teachers training college was scrapped, and a lot of teachers were afraid that they may be laid off. So some of them start to grab certificates from all nooks and crannies. Those who don't even want to have that certificate, and even the issue of National Teachers Institute. You go there at the GTC, you see kind of training that they are giving to these people. They are interested in the certificate. So what the problem we have now is the issue of we are more interested in certificate than acquiring the knowledge.
And could that be the result of these inadequacies we see in
it's part of the problems that we are facing in education.
All right, let me come to you, Professor. Studies have revealed that most teachers at both primary and secondary school are inadequately trained. We've talked about it, and most of them don't even participate in the in-house service training, and it also leads them to not being creative. They don't initiate things to probably stimulate the students they teach. Where do we go from here? What exactly do we have to start doing now to probably get our education system back in shape?
Let me say this, that when the policies are right and the problem persists, then it's a problem of implementation. Now, most of our policies in this country, educational policies, perfect. Now, the problem we have is implementation. The education system is designed in a way that when you have teachers, you also have a kind of supervisory body. Some are in the institution, some visit, like Ministry of Education, they could visit, do peer review, check what they are doing, and so on and so forth. Then at different levels, you have the headmaster, principal, and so on. These are the things that are supposed to, that were put in place to make sure that the policies were implemented rightly. But let me tell you, at least I have experience being a board director in a secondary school. You see that when they come for those peer review from the ministry, the way they act, let me not say that they will ask for something, Nigerian do understand, but you understand that they are not really there
to do the job.
They want you to give them something, and then they will sign and then go.
Okay.
Then if you, like what the person, when we showed the box, the woman was saying, if you get to the schools, supervisors, they were supposed to check how these people perform. Are you doing what you're doing now? Some of them might have connived to even bring in somebody who is not qualified. So, so the duty of that principal will not be to guard and make sure that I don't bring him or her out. Maybe at home, you will now say, you see, you didn't do this thing well, don't do it next time.
We cannot deny the fact that corruption is in the education sector, just like it's in every other sector.
Sure.
Yes, we know. Like you give an instance of people coming to check for something, and they won't do their job because they probably want some bribe. We'll call it by the name. But let's quickly look at what is, because when we talk about these inadequacies, a lot of the rich people in Nigeria, for example, wouldn't want their kids studying in the country. Why? Reason being that they feel they'll get a better education outside, and they come back and do very well. How do we, or what exactly are the things we have to start doing? Because, see, talking about the inadequacies in the education sector, you talked about graduates who are unemployable. Whose fault is it? I come to the university to probably study, and I am graduating half-baked, like you used, the word. Whose fault is it? My fault, the school fault, the teacher's fault, the lecturer's fault? Where do we go from here?
Okay, now let's all look at it this way. I want to deviate a little bit from the line of Prof. that all our educational policies are correct or perfect.
Yeah.
No, I didn't agree with that.
Okay.
My points are this. At times, our government may formulate a policy without looking at the policy, studying the policy very well. You don't just formulate a policy, you need to study the policy. Are you following? Evaluate the policy. Look at the possibility of actualizing the objective or the goal of the policy before you start introducing the policy or implementing the policy. For instance, we introduced the issue of CBT in our educational system, more especially in the higher institutions. In the computer-based exam. But in the secondary school, you do not teach them on how to operate computer. You subject them to write examination jam with computer. While some of these kids that are in secondary schools in the rural area have not seen computer for the first time. Then how do you assess that? You see? So also in the area of the university, about 3 or 4 years ago, they scrapped the issue of E. There's no longer E level. Now scrapping pass degree, pass in the university. Now you come out with third class. Now scrapping pass. Now what did that mean is that for you to pass, you must have D. Then how many of these kids can score D? So what it means now is they will begin to sort out their ways on how to get D. And for someone getting D, that means third class is a class degree. I follow. So these are some of the policies that our policymakers will do to favor them. Probably somebody has a kid that doesn't want to come out with a pass level. So want the kid to come out, they have the pass it right now. That now pass level will have to have pass from next session. So what we are trying to say is that the system is corrupt, like you are saying, and these children, they are not graduating very well or not having a good result. It's both sides, both of the students and that of the teachers. But at times, and also the parents also involved. Yes, parents are, we will not exclude ourselves. We parents, we are involved. We are part of the system. Because I know some parents will go and pay for the special center for their kids to pass WAEC.
That's when we still talk about the certificate.
Yes.
All right. Now let's actually begin to look at the implication this will have on, if not checked, for our national development as a people of Nigeria. When we don't check all these inadequacies, Prof, let's come to you, the implications, please.
Okay, let me start by bringing out, let me say, 2 theories. First is that what you cannot measure, it will be difficult to manage. And another aspect of it is that when people complain so much about lack or insufficiency, you can also ask them, what have you done with the little you receive? Government need to check on that. I know the funding is not sufficient, but they could also check what that little you receive. How have you managed it? Because you find out that some people some stakeholders, principals, heads of high institutions will now hide under that mantra that, go to abroad, the things they do, we don't have anything compared to. So the little they are giving, they pocket it. So first, they have to look at how the funds sent to schools are being managed.
I think you're talking about the solutions here. We are looking at what the implication, the effect it's going to have on the national development, when we don't check this inadequacies.
I'm coming. I'm coming. Because why I'm saying it is that some of these things, first, I'm just trying to lay out what I would call political corruption, which is not only when you are involved in politics. Even nepotism is part of it. So, and when such things start from the university, primary schools and so on, of course, we are the people that bring out leaders of tomorrow. When you train a pupil that has seen corruption, that sees corruption as way of life, you don't expect that person to change. There are aspects or areas where some lecturers will demand that the student will buy a particular book, which is not wrong. But for how much? Maybe a book that will worth 200 naira. He will sell it for 2,000 naira. Things like that. And the students understand some of these things. So ethically, we need to re-examine ourselves. Now, if we continue that way, the implication is that one, we'll continue to have corrupt leadership. Okay. By and large, these children today will become leaders tomorrow. Two, we have people that will be unpatriotic. Unpatriotic in the sense that I attended a conference in Ghana, and we were talking about Nigerian situation, nothing works, no light and so on. Then Professor Nkrumah, not related to Kwabe, came to us. As I said, why is it that when Nigerians come together, they always criticize their country? They don't ever say anything good about their country. The thing just shook me. Okay. And then since that time, I've started, I try to see Nigeria from an optimistic side also, because there are good sides of Nigeria. But now you find that most of the discourse you have in higher institutions in particular is how bad government is, how government will not bring one kobo, how even Ghana has better schools and so on. Now, the students move out with that mindset of pessimism, that nothing works. So any place you place him, any position you place him, he is just there for being their sake. He's not pushing for that place to succeed, because to him, nothing works in the country. These are some of the things we get by allowing these things. Then talk about people, students who are not employable. It is very easy. Why is it that some of the people that let me use the university, my constituency, for instance, some of the people we have are not supposed to be undergraduates. They are not qualified to be undergraduates. They don't have the ability. In the first place, they ought not to be there.
And somebody brought them in.
Somebody brought them in. Doc talked about the special center. We all already know of that. And some of this corruption here and there. That's why I talked about political corruption, nepotism, and so on.
All right, Prof, we could go on and on. Now, for the last word, what's the way forward, for want of time?
One way forward, that we will have to look inward and see how we restructure our educational sector. First and foremost, in the area of funding, I still mention it, funding is very important, because with funds, you will be able to recruit qualified teachers and pay them. Yes, and also welfare, incentive is also very, very important, but especially in the area of primary school. These primary school teachers, they need to be motivated. They need to be paid very, very well, so that they will be able to impact quality and quantity education on the kids. Because when you motivate a staff very well, he will perform optimally, yes, and he will be doing his work happily, without grudges. But this time, if you not motivate the staff, the person will leave the kids playing. Okay. Yes, and also a very important thing also in the area of primary school is the issue of guide. Yes, and watch. The teacher needs to guide these kids very well and watch them. Make sure that you channel them in the right direction. Yes, also I also have to talk about the issue of making sure that examination malpractice is minimized, both in the area of center and the university. Some teachers also in the university level, I am seized a teacher, a colleague, aiding a student to indulge in execution malpractice. Such act is very, very bad.
All right, let me come to you, Prof, before we go. You talked about a lot of people who are not supposed to be undergraduates or be in school.
Yes.
And we know the state of Nigeria, that everybody wants to survive, because we have made it in a way that in Nigeria, without education, you're not going anywhere. You know, you can go to the Western world and you see someone who just wakes up, he's 5, 6, and the parents notice he can play football very well, he's in the academy, they notice he can do the lawn tennis, he's there. But here in Nigeria, nothing of such. It's you either go to school or you don't become successful. Those set of people you feel that they're not supposed to be in school, where do they go? How do they survive?
Thank you. That's why I started by telling us that we have the non-formal, the formal, and
I don't know. Can we see who is here? Hello. Hello. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello. Good morning. We lost him. All right, go on.
So now, some people can attend trade schools and still be whatever they said to be.
Do we promote it? Because that's the
that is where I'm coming to. So, but what we are trying to do now is to put it in a way that once you are not a university graduate, you are not educated. I beg to disagree.
That's originally, that's what we know it's
that
not.
Is
but Nigeria has made it that way.
No, Nigeria has not made it that way. That is why I said we have, how do I say it? We make policies. We don't even take time to look at those policies to see what it contains. If you look at the UPE of 73, you see it was captured there. Everybody should not be university graduates. Okay. You could have somebody maybe with OND, especially professional courses, turn out to be world best. It's possible through practice. As you practice, you learn. I'm in a practical-based area, profession, as an artist. So the best artist is not the artist with a PhD.
So finally, just tell us, what are the way forwards as regards to tackling the
The way forward is already we have what I call quality assurance put here and there, especially in the high institutions. You see some of these policies are neglected. The other day I was involved in National University Commission ad hoc, the accreditation team. You know, I was discussing with another professor. I said, you know, when we come to end of the month, we sign monthly returns. It's a kind of check balance to make sure that you do come to school and so on. He said, we don't do such things, so why should they ask people to sign? So you see, so in some universities, you don't have any check and balance. The quality assurance is not there. You know, people, when somebody pays school fees, there should be assurance that he gets the quality of what he paid for. Some of these things we are not. Let me tell you, abroad, in the United States, for instance, students can sue a university for the quality of education that they get. And let me also tell you that even this era of industrial action by lecturers and so on, some, what do you call it, some unions will now get a lawyer to pursue. Why they teach? To pursue their claims. Why they teach? Because right, the student body will sue them because they paid. So gradually we will still come to that.
All right. We believe so. Let's all keep hope alive, believing that one day things will get better. At this point, we'd like to appreciate you, Professor Cliff Nwanna, a Professor of Arts, Education, History, Nnamdi Azikiwe University here in Oka. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
We also appreciate you, Dr. Anselm Mweke, lecturer at Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University, Ibarem. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And we'd like to thank you also, viewer. You're so much grateful for your watching. Please, the program is terminating here. We'd like to appreciate you so much. My name is Nonye Nwokoye.
And I'm a very Ugunna.